Welcome to this presentation. We have the pleasure to have Nora Chapa Mendoza with us. My name is Cecilia Sáenz Roby, and I am very pleased to open this presentation. And we have a surprise here also from Washington, D.C. Nora is a very famous Latino artist with over 50 solo national and international exhibitions. She has received more than 25 awards and recognitions for her extraordinary artwork. She was the recipient of the Governor's Art Awards in 1999, and recently she has received the great honor of being contacted by the Smithsonian and the Notre Dame Archives. And here I have a person, Josh, from the Smithsonian.
Hi, thank you. I travel across the country a lot, and coincidences happen where I get to be at nice events like this. So my name is Josh Franco. I'm the Latino Collection Specialist at the Archives of American Art, which is a unit of the Smithsonian. We don't collect artwork, we collect personal papers of important veteran established American artists, such as Nora Chapa Mendoza. And so we get to tell all the stories about the art. We collect letters of photographs and ephemera. And I spent a lovely day yesterday with Nora at her studio, where I got to hear a lot of those stories. You're very lucky to have an hour to hear them here. So with no further ado, let's listen to some stories and look at some art with Nora. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. I feel very honored to have you here, Josh. And I want to thank Cecilia Sáenz Roby and Nicole for all the work that they've done. And they've hung the work all over the place. Some in the library, some in their offices, some, she can tell you more or less where. But it's a strange exhibit, but it's good. If you don't get to see some in one spot, you happen to pass another one, you'll see them. And this is going to be, a story about my life and how I became who I am and where I am today. And my name is Nora Chapa Mendoza. My father, when I was little, taught me to say my entire name, which was Nora Chapa Alvarado Hernández Cortés Rendón Garza. A sus órdenes. And I was born in West Laco, Texas, in the valley, near the Rio Grande River, close to the border, only maybe 40 minutes on the American side of the border. So I consider myself a Chicana because I come from Mexican Indian parents. I was born in a house in West Laco that was one big room. I was born in 1932, so you can maybe picture the picture. I was born in a house that was one big room with dirt floors, and we had a stove, a wooden stove on one corner, and we had one crib for my brother. So already at that point, there was discrimination because he was the oldest and I was the youngest, and I should have had rights to that crib. My grandmother, Manolita Chapa, my grandfather, Arcadio Chapa, died. He was a horse trainer, and there was a flood going on in San Jose River or something in Mexico, and he was helping rescue people from the flood. And he loved horses, and he was crossing the river, and the horse got stuck in the mud and couldn't get out, and he swam out, but he couldn't stand to see the horse uh, stuck in the mud, so he went back to rescue the horse. And the horse by that time had gone pretty crazy and stumped him to death, and he was found 3 or 4 days later floating in the river, drowned. So my grandmother then took all her belongings. She sent her oldest son, who was maybe 11 or 12 or 13, to Texas, across the border. I call it northern Mexico. And so anyway, she sent him and his brother to go and check out the area. Huastlaco didn't even exist at that point. And they said, Mom, it's good, come. At that time, you could just cross. There was no papers and whatnot. So she sold everything she had, got a card, brought the essentials, and came and moved to Donna, Texas. And my father at that time was 12 years old. So he's been in the U.S. more years than many who are considered Americans. And I still, because of my accent, because of my background, because of what I do, the way I paint, my paintings and all of that, they still ask me, what part of Mexico are you from? And my trick answer is the same as I said just now, northern Texas, northern Mexico. They call it Texas. Anyway, my mother was very, very sick when I was born, and she needed a lot of rest. I don't know if she had Malta fever or if she had tuberculosis. Either way, she needed a lot of rest. So being a little baby and hungry, maybe a little demanding, I used to cry, and I probably cried a lot. And she needed her rest, so I couldn't do that in the house because it would wake her and she would not heal. So they would put me outside my father would put me outside in the yard. And we used to have fire ants in Texas. And the ants would crawl up and make a picnic out of me. And they would crawl up, bite me, and curl up and die. And my dad used to tell me the stories all the time. I didn't know why they did that. I thought maybe I was some evil or something. But actually, I think there are ants that do that. There was also a little Mexican school in Huastlaco. And my mother used to send my brother, me and my sister to that school. I was the youngest, so I was maybe 3, barely could walk. And my sister was a year and a half older, and my brother another 2 years older. And we used to walk to the school. It was outside. It was a big table with a roof. And his name was Professor Cuellar. And I can remember all these things. It amazes me. I have really good long-term memory, but I can't even remember yesterday. Yes, I do. I had an appointment with you. Anyway, the reason why he built that school was because he was licensed in Mexico, but not in the U.S., so he couldn't get any work as a teacher. So like they say, if you don't like the party, throw your own. So he did. And he built his own school, and we used to go there. And there, it was in Spanish, and I learned how to read and write and how to do math and small things like that. My mother died then shortly after that. I was 4 years old. She was 29. And my father, this was 1932, so it was during the Depression, and my father moved to Galveston, Texas, the island. I don't know how many of you know where that is. But he was looking for work, and he found work he moved to Galveston, Texas, and he left us with my maternal grandmother, and her name was Margarita. And Margarita, my grandmother, owned a molino, a tortilla factory, and she was a good businesswoman. And she, my brother and I and my sister would stir the nixtamal, the corn, in a big tub under a wooden fire in that hot Texas sun all day long. One time my brother had it and started to run. She picked up a leña, a piece of wood, and threw it at him, hit him in the back of his head. And things like that, like imprinted in my head. I remember everything. I don't remember, I remember the good things too, but the bad things are like tattoos in my mind. Then sometimes we would spend time with an aunt called Tiamana, and that was where I had my first art experience. My aunt came to visit, another aunt came to visit us, and one of the cousins brought a coloring book and colors, and wow, this was like heaven to me. I'd never ever seen a coloring book or crayons, so that was the beginning. And from then on, that's what I was going to do the rest of my life. I don't color books anymore. My dad, when he went to Galveston, got a job at the brewery, and the pay was very, very small, but all the beer he could drink, and he took advantage of that. Later, we were reunited. I was about 8 years old, and I really missed Westlaco. And I would dream about a Prince Charming coming to rescue me in a white horse. I would just really miss it. But one day I was looking at the stars and I noticed the Big Dipper. And I had seen the Big Dipper in Westlaco. So I figured, well, I can't be that far away because there's the same stars as I used to see at home. So that comforted me some. In my house, my father never remarried, and there was no woman in the house. So it was just my dad, me, and my brother and sister, 8, 9, and 10. So we had no rules, no boundaries, no limits, other than if you do anything you shouldn't do, you die. And we knew it, and we knew that it would. So we had kind of, my dad drove a little a pink Cadillac, an old one, and we could hear it coming like a block or so away, because if my father came home and found us playing instead of working, doing whatever kind of work there was, sweeping the floor, anything, doing dishes, anything, he would beat the living daylights out of us and any friends who happened to be visiting. So you didn't want to be around at those times. And he kept the whip hanging on the wall to remind us. And so that kept us walking a straight line, so I don't have any bad feelings about my dad. He was scared. He had 2 daughters, and he didn't know how to raise them and what would happen to them, being the macho man that he was. We had a credit account at the grocery store, and we could go there and buy whatever we wanted to eat whenever we got hungry. But there were no cooked meals like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That was unheard of. There wasn't even a bedtime. It just got dark, you went to bed. And sometimes my father had parties. He was very young. He was in his 20s. And he had parties outside the house. And he had all his friends, some relatives and whatnot. But in order to go to the bathroom, they had to go through the house, through the front door, which was our bedroom, and into the back where the bathroom was. And at one point I woke up and there was a man sitting on our bed trying to feel my sister, and he didn't get to me yet. Thank God I woke up and scared him. My father went after him with a gun, but I don't know whatever happened. But anyway, those were the kind of experiences I had growing up. But you know, it takes whatever it takes to make you who you are. You can let it break you, or you can let it make you very strong. And I chose strong. My father was a house painter. He painted the walls of the brewery. And so there were cans of paint all over the place. And I loved the smell. At that time, they only had oil-based paint. And they didn't have acrylic paint like they have today. And he would teach me some of the things. He would teach me how to match the colors. And I could play sometimes with the paint when he was painting. And one time he was painting a house for one of his customers, and the man had some paintings in his house, and my dad was big mouth, and he said, "Those paintings are terrible. My kid could do better than that." So the next day, the man brought a set of oil paints and a canvas, and he says, "Here, take them to your kid. Let's see her do better than that." So my dad came. I had never painted. I had never even seen oil paints or a canvas. And he showed me a picture of a bullfighter or something, and he says, "Here, paint that." And I never had any doubt that I couldn't, because I had never been told that I couldn't. So I painted it, and I got so turned on that I started painting everything that appealed to me. I still have one left that I showed Josh yesterday, but I brought it, but I left it in the car. But anyway, I made a lot of copies of all the masters, Dali, Picasso, whatever. I didn't realize at the time, because sometimes they tell our children not to copy in school, so that they can become original. But you know what? I copied all those masters, and I learned from them. And I still have my own style, not one, not two, not three or four, 5 or 6, and I'm well known for all of them. So, it's up to you. You make your life what you want it to be. I wrote little notes here so I could remember. When I started school, I spoke only Spanish until I was 8 years old, and although I lived in Texas, the schools that I was sent to were Mexican. There was an English school, but they put us in this separate from the regular school, and it was like a barrack, and everyone spoke Spanish anyway. So I grew up speaking Spanish. When I first started school, I was 8. My sister was 9, and my brother was 10, and they put us. Am I making that noise? I'm sorry. Tell me if you can't hear me. So they put us in first grade, and I thought I was tall. I thought I was taller than all the other kids. I thought that the other kids were short, and that I was really tall. I grew up believing that for a long time. It took me a long time to realize that I wasn't as tall as I thought I was. Although when I've met people, they're surprised at how small I am. They were expecting a giant, they've told me. There was a little girl, eventually they moved us up because the teachers noticed that when the assignments were on the board, we could come up with the answers. But when they were verbal, we couldn't understand. So they put us in our proper grade. And there was a girl whose name I still remember. Her name was Josephine Lynn, wherever she may be. She used to beat me up after school every single day. So I got to the point where I didn't want to go home. And the teacher wanted to know why. So she assigned a big student to walk me home so that she couldn't do it. So she finally stopped beating me up. Then in middle school, was right. My father, by the way, did not care whether I went to school or not. But because there were art classes and art, I went. And the middle school was right across from the beach in Galveston. It's an island. And it was really, really hard to decide to go to the school or go to the beach and swim. And half and half. I did get through it. And one of the good experiences that I had there was that one of the Spanish teachers was writing a book about Mexico, little Mexican girl or something. And she asked me to illustrate it, and I did. And I don't know if the book ever got published or not, but that was exciting for me to be able to do some art. I didn't realize, that illustrating a book was really a nice thing to do, but I just was happy to draw. After that, I went to high school, and in high school, I had difficulty graduating because by this time I knew English well, but my problem was required Texas history, and I just couldn't swallow it. I just couldn't believe all of that could have been our fault. And somehow the Alamo and all that, I just couldn't. Finally, they got tired of me and passed me, and I finally graduated high school a lot older than most kids. I got caught up eventually. And at that point, we didn't have colleges in Galveston. The only school that was a medical school. And my boyfriend went to University of Texas, and he was the first Mexican, the only Mexican, who had gone to college. And he went under the GI Bill. And so I asked him, I said, what do you think? I'd like to go to college. And he goes, well, what would you study? And I said, I would study art, of course. And he goes, you think you can draw? You go to college and they'll draw circles around you. So instead, I married him and came to Detroit. After he graduated from medical school, I worked while he went. And I created my two masterpieces at that point, my son and my daughter, who are fantastic. My son today is a doctor, a psychiatrist, an MD, and my daughter is the owner of Sariano's Violins. Anybody who plays a violin, cello, or viola would know of her. She does this all over locally, the state, the whole U.S. and Europe and everywhere. Known by Yo-Yo Ma when he comes here, brings all of the great artists that come for the symphony. She services all the symphony players. And they only do violin, cellos, and violas. I'm very proud of both of them. So it was worth it. 22 years, and I got a divorce. And it was difficult. It wasn't easy. And I had to find work. And I wasn't trained. I had no skills. I didn't know how to do anything. I had worked at different kinds of things, but I knew I wasn't going to do that again. And so the only thing I really knew how to do was art. And somebody invited me to do a street art fair. And much to my surprise, all my paintings sold. And I thought, wow, I can do this. So I started doing all the art fairs that were around, all the way to the Ann Arbor Art Fair. At one of the street fairs, my place was in front of a gallery called Bureau's Gallery in Detroit in Harmony Park. And he invited me inside because it was raining, and he said, you look out the window, when somebody comes, you go outside. And so when I walked into that gallery, I thought, wow, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to have someday. And so, indeed, I did. I eventually had Galeria Latina in Pontiac and Galeria Mendoza in Detroit, in Harmony Park. And the first time that he had an opening, we had a door between our galleries. The first time that I was in my gallery next to his, he sold 40 paintings. I sold 15. And from his clients, because I didn't have any at the time. And but they would come through the door and see my work and also buy from me. So that was the beginning. I eventually got mugged and beaten in my studio, in my gallery studio in Detroit. So I had to move out because I was too scared to stay. And the neighborhood was only getting worse. It's better. It's much better now, but it was getting worse and worse. So I had to leave. And so I came home. My son-in-law said, "You know what? You treat your furniture better than you treat yourself." And he was right. So first I turned my took my car's place and turned the garage into a studio. I've since doubled the space and tripled the space. And I painted in my basement, and eventually the art took over the whole house. And that's where I work today. I guess you would consider me an abstract or impressionist. I don't really know. My subjects are mostly Latino or abstract, anything, women, social issues, migrant workers, Indians, all of the things that I've experienced. And I think a part of my soul and my spirituality goes with every painting that I paint, because I was often told by customers who had purchased my work, sometimes before I go to work, quote, "Sometimes before I go to work, I look at your painting and it gives me enough strength and energy to get through the day." So I'm happy that I can do that through my work. I'm happy that I can contribute something. And we're still doing okay. And I work mostly in oils. And this, about 3-4 months ago, I suffered a huge reaction to the oils and the turpentines, the mediums. And my hand got swollen and tingly. I was pain all the way down, headaches, constant headaches all day long. The worst part is that it depressed me really, really bad, because I thought I would never be able to paint again. Although I did some acrylics, my first love was oils, because that's what I had started with. But I haven't painted since then with oils, just tiny little bits, but I'm trying to, detox and get away from the oils and do. And so I've been doing acrylics, and much to my surprise, they've come out. I've tried doing them like I do some of my abstract oils, and they come out really good. I've been selling them, and they take less time and easier to do, and I've been selling them, so I guess I'm okay. I didn't get a chance to type the rest of this, so I have to kind of read what I'm doing. My work has allowed me a tremendous amount of travel. I have exhibited locally, internationally, and nationally. In the beginning, Michigan State University was very, very supportive. There was a lady there named Herminia Ortega, and it was when the Hispanic movement was just beginning, and they would have conferences, and she would call me, bring some work, and I would come, and she would set it up, and she would shame the Latinos into buying my work. And so, I was able to make a living and to raise my children and help them out as much as I could with education. We all worked, and everything turned out good. So I'm happy about that. And I've traveled to many, many places. I went to Paris once. I didn't want to go because it was kind of an expensive trip, and my daughter says, "Oh, Mom, go." She says, "You'll sell some paint. You'll make some paintings, sell them, and you'll pay for it." When I came back, I had an exhibit of the pieces and sold out, and so it not only paid for the reason why is because that we took paints. It was a painting trip, and that we took paints and canvases and whatnot, and the tour guide that we had took us to Monet's gardens and had permission for us to paint in Monet's gardens. And so I set up my place there near the water. There was no faucets or anything. I didn't have any drinking water, so I just went and grabbed some water from the garden. And so those paintings were all painted with water from Monet's garden. And my agent at the time, Partners Gallery, I think it was called, or Abbott Gallery, she owned both of them. She hyped them that way, and that was why they sold out in a second. So sometimes I regret not having capped some pieces that I knew would be really important, but you can't take it with you. So especially now that I'm 84, I can't take it with me. So they're all for sale, except for my son and daughter. They're taken. Okay. I had shows also locally in Detroit. I had many. I was one of the 7 artists that was selected to restore the music hall. They selected 7 artists from the nation. And I got a call one day, and they asked me if I would be interested, and I said yes. And they asked me, "Well, do you drink or smoke?" Because they want somebody who doesn't drink and smoke. And I go, "No, I don't." And I didn't. I didn't drink and I didn't smoke. My dad used to say, "If I catch you drinking or smoking, I'll kill you." So, I knew better. So anyway, I was one of the 7 that restored it. And that, if you go to the music halls, anybody been to the music hall since it's been renovated? I don't know, anybody? Sorta, all of that. I was part of that. Okay. I've also been involved in a lot of Native American things and migrant workers. I did 3 exhibits in Cuba, and on the 4th trip I took some artists. And in one of the trips, they presented one of my paintings to Fidel Castro, and I was able to meet Fidel Castro. And I was asked to put a wreath on Che Guevara's monument. And the exhibits were 2 at the Centro de Trabajadores Cubanos, Center for Cuban Workers, and La Guayasumin Gallery, which took place when the Global Women's Conference was taking place. And they also advertised my show from there. I didn't sell in Cuba, They didn't have enough to eat, let alone buy paintings. But that's okay. I bought a lot of paintings, so I have a nice Cuban collection. I supported them. And one of my, also one time, there was a person who used to do all the artist in residence in Latin America. And one time she couldn't, and they asked to find somebody. And somebody called me. You had to be bilingual. And so they asked me if I would be interested, and I said yes. So I got invited and everything paid to go to Honduras and do an artist in residence at the Academy of Fine Arts in Honduras. And I also got involved in the Chiapa Zapatista movement and everything. I guess I'm a rebel at heart. I was also in Nicaragua doing an exhibit during the war. And I never got my paintings back, but that's okay. They sold them, and you probably used the money for whatever. They were very, very poor. They were devastated. And the soldiers were like younger than you. They were like babies fighting wars. El Salvador, many, many killed there too. And my most recent exhibit abroad was in 2008 in Egypt. And a friend submitted and asked me if I was interested in submitting, and I did. And they selected her and she was Arab, so she spoke the language. So we flew to Cairo, and from there we flew to Sharm el-Sheikh, which is the 4th most beautiful resort in the world. And they housed us and paid for everything. And they provided the canvases, the paints, everything for 10 days. And they gave us a beautiful reception, a blue ribbon. All the dignitaries came to the opening. It was incredible. And it's amazing how much other countries value artists. You know, you're like a celebrity there. Here, I don't know, I don't feel like it's the same way, but, you know, maybe it's just me, I don't know. I don't go too many places. I paint 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. When it's not painting, it's about the business of painting. I use acrylics now a lot. I said that, and I told you my themes. And I was also involved in 2 groups, Canto de la Tierra and Capuli Coacalco. Am I saying it right? Coacalco, those are my 3 Sundance brothers. I did my Sundance. And so a lot of my spirituality that goes into my paintings comes from those experiences. One of the persons that I brought to Canto de la Tierra from Peru, who used to come to Canada to sell her wares, is today the governor of Puno. The new president has just appointed her governor of Puno. You can find it on the computer. You can find all this information in the computer. And I've done, I think I mentioned that, or you mentioned that I've done a good 75 solo exhibits during my life. And a lot of books. I brought a lot of books to show you. The last one was, you can come and take a look. And the last one, this is the last one by Inés Hernandez Avila and Nora Cantu, very, very well known, both of them. And they selected it's about arts and culture, poetry and literature. And they wrote about 6 artists from Texas, and I am one of them. And it's time for questions, I think. Okay? So, any questions? Have I covered it all? Any questions? My subject matter have been migrant workers, political issues, social statements, women, abstracts, and Native Americans. And I am currently in the National Latino Archives in Notre Dame, and Smithsonian came to talk to me yesterday. So, I'm okay. This is, I don't know how many of you know about Judy Baca. Judy Baca is the foremost muralist probably in the world, but definitely the United States and definitely Latina. And she did the World Wall Project. She selected 2 artists from every country in the world, and every country, she sent them this big roll of canvas the size of this room and 2 stories up. And the people that she selected were people that in Mexico were Marta Ramirez and Patricia Quintera or something like that. And they were at this when I was sundancing in Nahua, the Nahua University in Cuernavaca. They asked if they could take pictures. And so when they had an opening in Dallas when it came around, because this murals tour constantly the world. So it's constantly being seen by the whole world. And when I went to the opening, no, keep it open. When I went to see the mural that had included me here in the corner, see? and Enriqueta Vasquez, who is a famous writer of Chicano books. So when people would ask me who my agent was, I would point up there, because most of it has just come to me. You know, I have not chased anything. I've definitely not chased the dollar. Artists usually don't care that much about it, at least I don't. Money comes and goes. But I taught my children to select something that they would love with a lot of passion, and they did. And they worked very, very hard, but they're very, very happy. So that's important. Life is important. Anyway, that's the end, and if you're, okay, Alberto. Thank you. That's my contribution to the world. I'm happy to leave a legacy like this to the younger people, to my children, to my children's children, and the next 7 generations. Thank you very much. I never really had a favorite, but I kind of, although I don't paint like Salvador Dali, I can relate to him, because I too feel like I'm crazy sometimes, you know. And you know, I admired Frida Kahlo because of the pain that she went through and still, you know, kept on painting. I was a little disappointed that she was so obsessed with Diego that she could have been painting more. I have, I think, in the library, a painting for Day of the Dead, and I painted Frida Kahlo with Salvador Dali instead of Diego Rivera, so that she could fool around a little in the other life. No, not artists, the public in general. No, not artists are cool with each other, I think. You know, I have had, well, a little bit discrimination for being a woman. I've been asked because I had done so much, was I writing on my Hispanic roots or my women roots, which I haven't, you know. But no, I mean, the public in general, they're not up there like with the doctors, and science and art are the most important things in most countries. I don't think we quite think like that, do we? If we do, I don't know. But that's my understanding. My son said to me one time that he was told that he had really good genes because he had the genes of both the science from his dad and the arts from his mom. So it was a good combination. So yeah, some people do. I don't mean to offend anyone, you know. It's just my story and how I experienced this. We all, you know, we all interpret whatever the way. It's our life. And at my age, you know, I just let it all hang out. I don't care. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody says. I respect everybody, and hopefully they'll respect me in return. But that's me.